Wolf Pack, what is going on? It is week 14, the fantasy football playoffs, and I'm here for your rankings rundown as I always am every Tuesday. It is do or die time, the most wonderful time of the year until it's not, until your soul is crushed and you are hopeless. Unless we get you that W, I'm here to answer any early sit-start questions, give you that matchup calendar to preview everybody's sit-starts, talk about over 100 players today on our rankings rundown. If you're tuned into the Fantasy Fullback Dive, our podcast, ffbdpod.com, where we pave your path to 2019 titles, welcome on in and come on over to the live show right on 5:30 or so on Tuesdays. A little late today because it is disgusting snow out there. Cleaning my car off just to get home took me about 30 minutes, so I apologize for the delay, but let's get it going. Let's get right into this. Sal, so good to see you, my dude. We still got to get that poker night in soon. Get any early sit-start questions in as I go position by position and explain my ranking thoughts process live on air. Let's get it done, Wolfpack. Before we keep going, while it's a little bit low engagement here, I'm just going to plug my computer in. Don't want to die here mid-recording. Assuming I have my charger. There we go. So let me just plug this in. Get your questions on in early, guys. Sorry for that delay, but welcome on into the show. We're going to go through our quarterbacks live here. Let me know again any sit starts I can answer for you as we do that. That's the whole point, is to make this interactive and get as many people involved. And if you're willing to share, if you're willing to get this out to more audiences, if you're in fantasy football groups, then by all means, please drop it in. Happy to help out. And again, of course, you guys will drive this show. Sal, pick two: Singletary, Lindsey, or James White, half PPR. In all honesty, we'll look at the matchup calendar for running backs in a sec, Sal, but I'm leaning James White and Phillip Lindsay there. I love the matchups for them, whereas Singletary getting Baltimore, not going to be all that appealing in my opinion. Let's pull up that matchup calendar that we were alluding to. This is on team defenses, so we need to scroll on out of there, get on over to the QBs. And then we can just preview the Week 14 calendar for you. QBs. Here we go. While that's loading again, I'm the Wolf of Roto Street, at Roto Street Wolf. If you follow us on Twitter, rotostreetjournal.com, where we breed and feed fantasy wolves that win their titles, and this is the do or die time, baby. Lamar Jackson, not a great matchup for the guy, but as we saw at San Fran, the guy's matchup proof. He's going to run one in, he's going to toss one, you're going to get 25 points. Just a matter of, do you get to 30? Do you get to 35 with the guy? So I'm still going to have him right at the top of the rings, especially with his only real ceiling competition, Mahomes, getting that brutal matchup here against New England. Not a good spot for him. In terms of the other matchups, clicking on the wrong thing there. Russell Westbrook gets the Rams. That's not a bad matchup, and he typically seems to just dominate these guys when he faces off with them. You got Denver for Deshaun Watson. So your elite options, your really athletic guys outside Russell Wilson, not in great spots. Although Aaron Rodgers, boom or bust, but has the ceiling of anybody. As we saw last week, 28 points against the Giants. Now gets another potential blow-up spot against Washington. Should be able to light them up fairly easily. Not a great spot for Kyler, and we just saw him get swallowed by a less ferocious Rams D. He's going to get that D-line of the Steelers. They'll be all over this offensive line. I'm benching Kyler this week if I can. Dak, Chicago. We saw Blau just throw 2 touchdowns on these guys, and receivers getting wide open deep. And big, tall wide receivers have had some solid days here. I think Cooper can still get it done. I'd have a hard time benching Dak. We'll see where he slides in. Winston at Indy, not a beautiful spot, but not that threatening. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if they just shit their pants. You never know with Jameis. Always a big risk. I'd rather have him in, Houston, Detroit, some of those blow-up style spots. Ryan, not in great spot either, and not off any good real days to make you want to use him. Carolina, middle of the road. Drew Brees, you got some tough matchups for quarterbacks this week, so you're going to have that big decision. Do I stream or do I... And you got good matchups for the streamers we'll talk about in a second. Or do I, roll Josh Allen against Baltimore? Drew Brees, these guys that have gotten it done for you. All these bottom matchups, though, in your top 5 quarterbacks, you see a lot of red, and then all the green comes in late here with Carson Wentz, the Giants. Beautiful spot there to use him. Cousins against Detroit, lovely spot. 9th most points to quarterbacks. Tannehill, the 4th most points And again, not anymore, but leading into last week, only Lamar Jackson had outscored this guy at the quarterback position since he became a starter, the highest QBR right now. And he's doing it with pretty weak weapons. Definitely a legitimate case for this guy to get a huge contract at the end of the year. Yeah, Baker against Cincy, always a lovely smash spot. Darnold just shit himself against that Cincinnati Bengal team. And also now, though, gets the Dolphins. Could you ever go back? Oh, man, that's going to be tough to avoid. So as you see there, just let you take one more gander at that matchup calendar, folks, as I get plugged in here. And I'll minimize that. So any other specific questions, let me know. I know Kyle Allen, also a potential streamer, getting that Atlanta matchup, that juicy spot after throwing multiple touchdowns in the last couple weeks, could be a potential streamer for you as well. Let's get rid of that so you can see this lovely face that only wants to talk and interact with you guys all day long. And keep those comments, those sit starts coming in. And only one like. Thank you, Allison. I appreciate it. But come on, guys. Give the Wolf a little love here. That helps us get more outreach. I really greatly appreciate that. So let's go through these rankings after looking at those matchups. Again, as we said, a lot of these top guys in tough spots. You're not benching, moving Lamar Jackson down at all. I would put Russell Wilson over Aaron Rodgers. They're on the road, but actually favors him because that means Goff maybe keeps this a little bit more contested. Maybe it has to stay the air under the ball a little bit more for Russell Wilson. So I like that spot. I do not like Mahomes against New England, although we did just see Watson put up his points against these guys. I think Mahomes can do the same. This defense has definitely cracked a little bit now that they're facing some legitimate competition, but that seems like a worthy top 5 despite the tough matchups. I mean, you can't really bench Watson at this point. We saw what he did when we recommended benching him last week. Ooh, hope I didn't cost anybody games with that one. But right after them, Carson Wentz, the 7th most points. I like that spot. I like Cousins at Detroit just because Detroit continues to put points up no matter who's at quarterback, which means it could be a shootout style day. Even more so, do I dare? And I have to make this decision, folks. Ryan Tannehill versus Dak Prescott. Oh man, my rankings, my gut tells me Tannehill, then my gut tells me Prescott, who's been doing it all year for me. I got till Thursday night to decide there. But I do love Tannehill, the 4th most points to quarterbacks with Oakland there. I do not like Kyler Murray. I'm just going to bump him down just to get that out of the way here. Other of those good matchups, Baker Mayfield against Cincy. We've seen him smash 20-plus points in juicy spot matchups. I kind of like him to do it again. Clearly I don't like Jameis. He makes me so fucking nervous. Although I wouldn't be shocked to see Evans and Godwin just sling all over the place. And then Brady at Kansas City, fresh off 3 TDs in comeback mode. I can see them having to do that. So I would probably put Brady ahead of these guys right here. Even though that Cincy secondary, the KC secondary, has been quite locked down this year. I think Brady, this offense, they're going to need to put up their points when you're facing against Mahomes. So that pressure should help him out quite a bit. I'd rather have Matt Ryan in there. Carolina, I get it, the worry, but this offense is built to take them down. Brissett, how could you stream this guy? Only 25 or fewer attempts in 3 of his last 4. But he gets that Tampa Bay matchup, the 4th most to quarterbacks. Do you ever dare toss him? And then you got Ryan Fitzmagic, 365 and 3 TDs this week. Holy hell. Would I dare ever put him above Kyler Murray? I would. I'm very worried about Murray this week, guys. If there's one person I'm definitely hitting the bench with besides Winston, it would be Kyler Murray. I think that D-line is going to dominate the pathetic, porous Carolina offensive line. We saw what that did with a little less mobility with that hamstring. I'm extremely worried about Kyler Murray. So let me know if you have questions about him, but most times I'm going to be recommending him. Josh Allen, I see Sal. I'm rolling with Josh Allen, so having him and Singh could be deadly for me. I don't know who's... Oh, Singletary, yeah. Going all in on that offense in a tough matchup could be risky. So, yeah, I'd probably bench at least one of them. I don't know what quarterbacks you might have available to you in these top 13, but yeah, you can't have both Allen and Singletary in there, Sal. That'd be a recipe for disaster. Although, again, both got it done against Dallas, another tough matchup. So it's not the end of the world, but still, I would have a hard time getting them both in my lineups. I do like Jared Goff at home, looked better. A vulnerable secondary. Kirk Cousins just bombed all over the place on him. I'm actually going to put Goff up a little bit. at 14 there, and seeing him get dropped quite a bit in leagues. So check out him. Seattle, 11th most points to quarterbacks. Not a bad spot for him. Again, the summary here: Breeze, Murray, like these guys that you've been dependent on. Now Breeze is a little different. He's at home. San Fran's a tough defense, but like I still trust Breeze. I don't know why. Maybe I'm wrong in that. He had a weak day against a porous Falcons secondary. But something about home Breeze, tough matchup against San Fran, like that's when he kind of plays his best. So I'm not benching him here. I'm gonna cut this tier off at Kyler, like that's your measuring stick. Even Brissett, I kind of like here against Tampa Bay, the 20th quarterback. But in terms of Hail Marys, we already tossed out Ryan Fitzpatrick, only 10% owned. I see Darnold get dropped a lot right now. Tannehill, though, my favorite of the week, 39% owned right now. Definitely a viable streamer. He's got 3 top 10 matchups in a row here down the stretch. Wouldn't be shocked to see a heroic run from the guy here. Other than that, as we get down here, I don't hate Daniel Jones, although quarterbacks have not done great. Even though wide receivers dominate Philly, quarterbacks just haven't been all that juicy. I still think I could see him getting it done with his wide receivers there. I like Drew Lock. I mean, he was slinging that rock all over the yard. I don't hate having him go. Not a big Rivers fan. We've seen these disgusting picks week in and week out. I don't hate Blau. Minnesota secondary, not nearly what it was. Xavier Rhodes getting just smashed upon week in and week out. Could the Duck Hodgles, get it done against Arizona as everybody's gotten it done against Arizona? If it comes down to Phillip Rivers or him, I'm going to go him. So there you go. That like rounds out your, I'll cut it off at Trubisky because you never want Trubisky in your lineup. Andy Dalton, same idea. So that's a little bit of streaming upside between Blau and Locke and Hodges. In fact, I'm going to give Hodges the nod over all these guys as just your desperation fill-in streamers. That wraps up my quarterback. So let's get to your questions that we have in here so far. Dylan Adams, great to see you, my dude. Pick 3, Aaron Jones, Freeman, DK, Chark, and Debo. A lot of great options there. I got to lock in Aaron Jones. I get the frustration, but gets Washington this week, the 11th most points to running backs, I believe, maybe even more. It's just one of those spots where he's got to blow up, right? I know the Giants were one of them too, but still, Aaron Jones by far and away better than most of those options. And then to me, I don't love Freeman. I get the DVOA. I get all those stats. So we'll see where he shakes out in the running back rankings in a sec. I do like DK. I think that Tyler Lockett will get shadowed by Jalen Ramsey, which makes him a big risk. I think DK could eat up that secondary coverage. And then Chark against the Chargers. Ooh, not a great spot, but gets Minshew back, who's definitely been better than Foles, despite that one blow-up game between Foles and Chark. We saw like 19 targets. Minshew's been more consistent, steadied out that value for Chark. Against the Chargers, though, not a lovely spot by any means. That's a really tough question, Dylan. I think you lock in Aaron. I think you're locking in DK. So then it comes down to Freeman, Chark, and Debo. Let's see how the rest of these rankings shake out. I think Devontae. Is this PPR? Oh, you said PPR down there. Man, Debo, they get New Orleans. Maybe he eats that up, especially if Lattimore goes to Sanders. Oh, boy. This question's going to fucking fuck with me all night. Thanks, Dylan, for ruining my night there. I'm 12 seeds still in the playoffs. That's horrible. I actually limped into the playoffs losing to the 12 seeds too, so kindred spirits here. Kirk Cousins bombing that late TD screwed me over. I think we're going to get it done, and I have a lot of the same guys as you, Dylan, so let's roll with it. Nick Foles almost knocked me out of the playoffs. Good thing I played D. Parker. There you go. I'm happy to hear that, Jose Vega. Live to see another day. I know Parker was one of our must-starts, so I'm definitely a big fan. Russell Westbrook? Is that what I said? Did I say that? I'm a fucking idiot. Russell Wilson, obviously, would be who I'm talking about. Thank you for the call-out, Alex. Much deserved, much appreciated. Mateo, my dude, New England guy. What's Belichick's deal? White goes from 0.9 to 30 in 1 week. It's one of those things, Mateo. There's no one better at exploiting the weaknesses of a defense, finding that. In fact, his exact line was coaching is all about like war, because you find that weakness and you go on the attack. You can't just sit back and let things come to you. And that was the key with Houston. They give up the most receptions, most receiving yards, and most scores to running backs through the air. It was clear-cut a James White smash week, and I do think it's similarly this week against Kansas City. I'm going to have him very highly ranked, so we'll see where he goes there. I'm considering White over Amari and Beckham at flex because both have crap matchups. I think I would do that, man. I get that Kansas City, a juicy, giving up the most points to running backs. A lot of that could and should come through the air. A lot of that, the reason James White blew up was they were playing from behind, comeback mode, game flow, very real with that Patriots backs. And James White, when down, is definitely that starter. So I could see him catching 10 balls or so this week and having a monster PPR day. Denny Jennings, Tannehill, Brissett, or Josh Allen. I'm leaning Tannehill there. I recommended people bench Allen for Tannehill last week. Didn't work out so hot. I'm still doubling down on that. I'm nervous about this Ravens team. I'm just nervous about that matchup. I know it's at home for Allen, so that definitely helps a bit. And I don't think the Ravens are quite as good defensively as they're cracked out to be, but when you get Tannehill getting the fourth most points to quarterbacks in terms of Oakland, and he's just been rolling as well as he has, I kind of want to let him fly despite the down week there. Looks like Nick James, good to see you, man. Happy it's been a while. Where the fuck you been, my dude? Maybe I'm just blind, but it's been a while since I feel like I've seen you. Go Texans. Fuck you, Dylan. Ugh. Fuck that. Screw the Texans. They're going to ruin the Patriots' advantage going into the playoffs. Damn it. Should I sit Breeze over Tannehill or Fitzpatrick again? I think for Tannehill, not for Fitzpatrick. But for Tannehill, I would, which is just crazy to me. I can't believe I'm saying these words, Tannehill over Breeze. Oh, my good God. Daniel, I'm going to get your question, and then we're going to head on over to the running backs, the bell cows, the ones that determine who wins ships more often than not. Have Carson and Penny, would you consider playing both in the playoffs, Daniel? I think that's a fantastic question that a lot of people are going to be asking after both those guys absolutely feasted on Monday Night Football. And I think especially when the matchup is right, like next week against Carolina, I believe is what they have. I mean, how many times do I have to tell you, smash any running back against Carolina? I think both those guys would be viable. This week, they have the Rams and trickier D-line, but it depends on who your other options are. I definitely can see scenarios where you have both those guys because they're getting so much volume, whether it's Penny getting his receiving upwork. You saw, again, 20-plus carries for Carson, the score. Like, he's going to always be a great bet for 80-plus yards and a TD. And then you also, with that receiving involvement from Penny, who looks very explosive. Where was this all year? I mean, they talked about using their backs like the Saints all year and never did. But for the playoffs, it does seem like one of those situations, like I said, the Saints there, where Ingram, Kamara, you can end up using both these guys. I think you can. So, Derek, I'll get to your question 1 second. Let's get to these running back rankings. And I'll pull up make the McCaffrey tier for himself. I get the down week, but you're always locking McCaffrey in as the number one guy. It's not really a question. Huge cheat code. I wonder if this Rivera firing will have any impact on him. I don't think so. I think he's going to be just fine. Maybe not fed quite to the level if the owner steps in a little bit and says, this is our franchise. Let's not ruin him knowing that the season's over. We saw that towards the end of last year. A historic late couple weeks and then just disappeared and when owners often needed him the most. So we'll see on that. Let me pull up the matchup calendar, though, and we'll get to running backs. Here's your quarterbacks again. Keep the questions coming in, guys. Really appreciate all the interaction. And again, any likes, comments, questions always help us get out, and especially when you share it out to your audience or to any fantasy football groups you're involved in. It means the world. We only got a couple more weeks here, so any help you give us to grow in those last couple of weeks is greatly appreciated. Alrighty, here, looking at the calendar. You see Atlanta, middle of the road to running backs for McCaffrey. It doesn't really matter. He's so matchup proof. He dominated these guys for over 25 points last time. He's probably going to do it again. So good luck to anyone facing him like myself in the playoffs. You're going to need to put up your points. Zeke gets Chicago right in the middle of the road. Not great against running backs, but not horrible. Zeke's going to do his thing. He'll get you a nice 80 and a TD or so, and maybe a little more receiving involvement. Now, Dalvin Cook, the big question of the week, and would be right up there at number one, maybe even definitely number two, maybe even number one. But is that shoulder okay? What's going to happen? That's probably the biggest storyline to monitor for week 14 is how healthy is Cook. Now, after the game, he said, I'm fine. I'll be ready to go. Everyone's hurt this time of the year. Still, though, are the Vikings going to have to go all in on Cook this week? Detroit, they should be able to beat him without it. And if so, then now suddenly Madison becomes a top 12 play just on matchup alone. Third most points to running backs. If Cook plays, definitely a smash spot there. But you have to be a little bit nervous about that shoulder, chest injury, and the team maybe wanting to rest him with a couple cakewalks between the Chargers and Detroit on the docket. Don't be shocked if he sits at least this week against Detroit's third-string quarterback. Kamara, not a great spot. San Fran, just great against every position, including running back. But he's used so creatively under Sean Payton. It's not just running into the teeth of that D-line. So we saw Ingram struggle with this last week. Oakland, I mean, you're going to see a Derrick Henry steamroll. There's so many stats. I don't have them written down off the top of my head, but if you tuned into last nights, you saw Derrick Henry, averaging almost 6 yards per carry in December and November. Such a pinnacle dominator down the stretch of, when it's cold out, when defenses are worn down. This guy just continues to get better and better as he's fed. And his numbers with Ryan Tannehill, 7 touchdowns in 6 games as compared to 3 in 6 games with Mariota. He's averaging nearly 6 yards per pop as compared to under 4 yards per pop when Mariota versus Tannehill. The splits are just insane. How much more efficient he and this entire offense have become with Tannehill there. And of course, Henry's always been the centerpiece, but now that he's got someone threatening defenses, you can't stop him. He's a steamroller. He gets better as the season goes on. He's got to be probably your second-ranked running back this week if Dalvin Cook is sitting. And Fournette, I mean, maybe he's the only one that could threaten him. The Chargers, a great spot for running backs, 8th most points. Chubb, another. I mean, this is a good week to hammer running backs on DraftKings, folks. Some of your biggest names, even, Melvin Gordon, Jacksonville, a juicy, juicy spot there. Barkley, a tough spot. He didn't really get too much traction even in the juicy blow-up spot against Green Bay. How is he going to really fare this week? I don't know. Philly's got a real tough D-line. Like we mentioned, Aaron Jones in a nice spot. 12th most points to running backs. Tennessee has increasingly sucked against anybody on defense, including running backs. So Jacobs, beautiful as you see here all these weeks. Just the most gorgeous running back schedule. That sputtering offense is getting a little concerning. They've only put up 12 total points in 2 weeks, despite facing horrible defenses. So I'm a little nervous, but still, he's going to be fine. Now, you can beat the Bills here through the ground, not through the air. Definitely one of those funnel-style defenses, almost the opposite, the reverse of Tampa Bay, who's great against the run, but horrendous against the pass. Buffalo's been getting beat down pretty good by power running backs, and Mark Ingram is the definition of a power running back. He's just been that sneaky engine. We know Lamar Jackson's the show there, but to have that steady, stable backfield presence that can do it all has been huge for him. Le'Veon Bell, talk again about the blow-up spots for running backs. Miami, 4th most points. You're probably going to get your best week out of Le'Veon Bell for the rest of the season here because he's got Baltimore and Pittsburgh next coming up, so definitely a good spot to use him in. Gurley, he's been churning, 25 or more carries in 20, I should say, sorry, in 2 of his last 3, but Seattle, 25th, not a beautiful spot, but he had a good game against them earlier in the year, 2 touchdowns if I'm not mistaken. Cleveland can be run upon for Mixon, who's got double digits in 4 of his last 5, has seemed to finally find his fantasy footing here, so I like him a bit. Scrolling down here, middle-of-the-road matchups for a lot of your middle-of-the-road running backs. You got Sony, more so James White, in my opinion, in that blow-up spot, 2nd most points to running backs. Who's giving up the most points if it's not Kansas City? Oh, Carolina. So that spot for Freeman. I know we had that question from Dylan. Most points to running backs? If there's ever a week to use the guy, I think it's this one. So, yeah, let me lock in Freeman to that answer. And I do like, Phillip Lindsay gets a good matchup, 9th most points. For Houston, Eckler could continue to blow up. Steelers running backs, 10th most points against Arizona. Is it going to be Connor? Is it going to be Snell? Whoever it is, definitely in a good spot to use this week. A lot of flex questions about him. And you got your Cincy again, Kareem Hunt. Darius Geis, that one name I really wanted to make sure to highlight here. Over 130 yards and a TD last week on the ground on only 10 carries. And gets, not quite the matchups Carolina, but not too far away with Green Bay giving up the 5th most points to backs. So really like this calendar. Then you get a lot uglier with ugly running backs that you're hopefully not having to use anyways. So let's sift on through the running back rankings and let you know how this all plays out afterwards. Let's show you my ugly face again, folks. My beautiful Pats hat, at least. Thank you, Nick, for this. Alrighty. So Henry against Oakland. I'm going to put Dalvin Cook as if he's playing, just like he said, up here with McCaffrey. Maybe it's a little limited. We got to find out what the coaches do, what they say. But assuming he's good and ready to go, you got to have him right up there with McCaffrey. Then Henry at 3, don't hate that at all. I'm going to bump Chubb up. Again, Cincinnati, he's just destroyed them when he faced them earlier this year. And I could definitely see 3 touchdown type of day for him. Oh, man, Kamara in that tough spot and hasn't been all that great anyways. So I'm going to cut this tier off. I'm going to bump Leonard Fournette in there, though. That Chargers matchup looking nice and ripe. I mean, Le'Veon Bell has not been all that efficient, but Miami certainly cures all that will ail you. Fourth most points to backs and generous in the receiving game as well. I do like Melvin Gordon a bit more than Aaron Jones, that inconsistency. Now, would I be shocked if he has a 3-touchdown day? Not at all. We've seen multiple of those this year in a good spot against Washington too, but I do like Jacksonville just getting dominated, and this team has been so very committed to getting Gordon going. If you've watched any Chargers games, it seems like they're just force-feeding him the rock. Again, I just don't like this Barkley spot here, but I'll keep him in the top 12. Is still a running back 1 because of the usage, and he's such a good receiver that maybe he still gets it done. I'm going to bump Gurley below Ingram, not below Lindsey, who just keeps getting the work but not getting it done. I like Sanders, even though the Giants have been sneakily decent against running back. Now, Carson, I don't understand why he'd be this low. Fresh off 100 yards and a TD and 24 carries, I get the Penny involvement's a little nerve-wracking, but still, let's be real here. The guy has been feasting. Lindsey just a little overrated in my opinion. I like the Houston matchup, but he's been in good matchups and just hasn't been getting it done. Give me Devonta Freeman, the most points to running backs as we saw there. A running back 1 in my opinion this week. And then you're looking. I still would have Lindsey above Devin Singletary. I'm going to bump Geis up with that juicy Green Bay spot. He's only 4,900 on DraftKings if I'm not mistaken too. So big fan of him. Montgomery I don't love. I'm going to bump Eckler above Singletary. I'm going to cut this off with Singletary rounding out this tier of, upside RB2s. I feel like, Gurley and them almost belong in this tier above. Even though they're in tough spots, even though, Ingram's just been such a beast. So I'm fully into getting him up there. I like Kareem Hunt more than this. Bump him up to 22. That Cincy spot should find the end zone. A great bet for that this week. And then you're looking, I think Shady needs more respect. I just don't like this. So I get the matchup for Sony, but to me, it's all about James White this week. Let's get him higher. Kareem Hunt even above Eckler. This is a James White blow-up spot, especially for you in PPR leagues. This is going to be a James White style game. And then this is assuming Connor's out. I wouldn't put him above Singletary, but above Montgomery, yes. And Sony, I guess, gets in there just because the matchup. It could be you never know when Sony's just going to come out, pound the rock. He's looked like he's running harder than before. It could just end up being that Sony Michel 3-touchdown day, so I can only put him so low. Shady's just getting that nod up a bit because despite the tough matchup, one, he just seems to always just dominate the Pats. But also, no one else is there. They just brought in Spencer Ware, which tells you the state of that backfield. I am going to bump up Rashad Penny, as a lot of you guys asked. I do think he is standalone usable here. See a lot of questions still coming in, so I promise I will get to you. Left off with you, Derek Hale. I see that question. I will be right there. I'm going to bump up Darwin. Oh, I thought I just bumped up Penny. Where the hell did he go? Rashad Penny. Yep, going up. I don't like Scarborough. I think they're going to get down early. I do not like Coleman anymore. You just got out-carried by Mostert, and now suddenly you're going to add Breida to this mix? Get him the fuck out of my face, please. Thanks. I'd rather have Darwin than Bo. Get Ronald Jones. Why the hell is he so highly rated up here? Just got benched for missing 1 pass protection. It tells you how thin ice this guy's walking upon. I do like Mostert. I don't like him, but who knows what the role Breida is going to be. So I'm only going to go so high on him. I'd rather have Carlos Hyde than both these guys. We're going to keep Jamal Williams down this tier, although he's the more consistent of the backs, to be honest, which is just fucking mind-numbing. I think Penny belongs. The upside he's shown belongs with that group. And then you're looking Jonathan Williams. Why the fuck would anybody play Jonathan Williams after that nightmare performance in a good spot against Tennessee? out carried by Jordan Wilkins, out snapped by Jordan Wilkins, out snapped and out carried by Nyheim Hines. Just disgusting 3-point day from this bag of complete shit. I don't see any reason why Jonathan Williams would ever be above Nyheim Hines, or really anybody for that fucking matter. Just a fucking piece of shit. Pardon my French. Patrick Laird, I think, is an interesting stream position this week. Only 1% owned, so if you're desperate for a streamer, he's going to get the goal line carries. He's been producing as a receiver for a few weeks in a row now. So yeah, I'd rather have him above Raheem Mostert, who everyone's going to blow all their fucking load on. I'm telling you, this is going to be shenanigans all over again. Not trusting anybody in this offense if I don't have to. I do like Duke Johnson's increased involvement. It seems like he's scoring a touchdown almost every week. They're finally using this guy up to his potential. I am going to bump Madison up just to get him kind of on people's radars. And, where would he rank if he's the main guy? Right up here in your top 15 running back range is where Madison slides in. For those of you who are wondering, I have Cook and I also have Madison. He would end up being a top 15 weekly play this week. I'm going to cut this tier off and then get back to your questions as I see a ton have come in. Thank you guys. Keep them coming in too. I love this shit. Let's cut this tier off here because I do think Madison, even if Cook plays, has some standalone value. If they're dominating, this guy has been the game closer multiple times this season, racked up 70-ish yards, got some nice receiving work too in Cook's absence. So I don't hate him, and I do like Nyheim Hines. Now Marlon Mack, here he is. I was wondering where he was. Is expected to play, so if he suits up, where does he slide in? I would put him right here. I'm going to put Singletary in this tier. This tier, Singletary belongs in. Despite that tough matchup, he's been getting it done, and they rank pretty low against DVOA, against the run. So maybe I'm just a little too low on this guy, but he definitely belongs in this tier. So I'm going to bump Mack up, though. That's where he'd slide in. Risky with that real tough matchup against Tampa Bay, and the guy hasn't played in a few weeks. Maybe they lighten his load and kind of ease him in, but still, it's Marlon Mack. So always a good bet to find the end zone. You see a little bit higher on Nyheim Hines this week than others. Williams continues to go down this list. Fuck that guy. And then you're just looking at just complete shitheads. You're not using any of these guys, I hope to God. Maybe Royce Freeman I can bump into this usability tier just because he might find the end zone. But yeah, this is all hideous at this point. Breida, I guess, gets a bump up because who knows what his role is going to be. Barber can find the end zone a bit. Why would Ronald Jones be this far ahead of Barber? Doesn't make much sense to me, so let's bump Ronald Jones. Continues to go this far down. Just ugly when you're getting to this point, folks. But as we mentioned, Darwin Thompson, 11 carries, 44 yards, maybe in line for his biggest workload yet against the Patriots, and he looked damn fucking good this preseason, so I am a fan of him. I'll put Latavius Murray, right there too. Adrian Peterson as well. I'm going to make a tier of just the last possible usable options at running back, and then hit all your questions. So Madison, Ronald Jones, Royce Freeman, Barber, Murray, AP. I'll bump Breida into there. Can't really trust Jalen Samuels at this point. Those are all guys you can use if need be. And again, Singletary, you're thinking, Mostert just put 150 up against these guys. Do I have to be this low on him? That's a question I'm going to have to keep revisiting. What's up, Matt Duck? Good to see you. All right, Derek. Need two. Devontae Adams, Mike Thomas, DJ Moore. Worried about Thomas at San Fran, but he's Mike Thomas. Yeah, your logic, you got to stick with your last sentence there. It's Mike Thomas. Don't ask any more questions. It's Mike Thomas. You've ridden that fucking man into the playoffs, so you got to keep riding it. In terms of the other guys, let me pull up the matchups, but I believe it's Atlanta for Moore, which is a smash spot. Adams, though, it's a pretty easy match. Washington, so you're going Adams and Thomas there. As much as I like Moore's spot, can you work him into a flex? What can you do there? Darnold or Josh Allen, worth a waiver to grab. Tannehill, yeah, I think you grab Tannehill there and you stream him over both guys. If not, I would probably lock in Allen and just hope he runs for a score. He's been so matchup proof, and the Ravens have been susceptible on the ground to running backs and quarterbacks alike. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Allen have another good day. I think I had Darnold higher facing Miami, but could I truly put my playoff hopes on him? I probably have to bump him down just to reflect that, I don't think I could. And as you see here, top two wide receivers in the ECR. I don't know if I'll agree with them. We'll find out how this all shakes out in a second. But Yeah, you got a pretty good set of wide receivers there, Dylan. I would roll Thomas, Adams, and if you can get DJ Moore into the flex, all the better. Leo playoffs this week or next week, huh? That's weird. Most owners get it this week. Breida, Drake, Howard, Montgomery, wide receivers are Devontae, Thomas, Jones, Birds D, or Cincy. Are you asking, Leo, just remind me, I'm going to get a couple more questions and comment on it if you're still here. Do you mean for this week? Because I don't know the matchups for next week. In all honesty, I'm not going to go ahead and look at them right now because we got so much week 14 action to cover. So if it's for this week, I will definitely be happy to take that one, week 14. But if you're talking about week 15, then no. I've got this. Arizona has no chance. I agree completely, Duck. I think that D-line is going to smash Pittsburgh. I used 25 fab for Cousins last month specifically for this, but I have Rodgers. Isn't Cousins more reliable? Maybe lower ceiling, but much higher floor. I'd agree with that assessment. The floor is definitely higher the way this guy's been playing, but, I mean, are you really going to bench Rodgers against Washington? As soon as you don't, it's going to be one of those days where it's like 250 and 0 touchdowns, and all of them go to, Aaron Jones. That's definitely a scenario this week. I do think, Detroit for Cousins is safer, but unless you're a heavy favorite, I'd have a real hard time benching Cousins, benching Rodgers rather for that. Quack, 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 Mr. Duckworth. I fucking love it. James, good to see you, my friend Nick James. It's been a while since you tuned in. By the way, I ended up beating Filipiak. There you go. I have 1 seed just for the bragging rights there. That's fucking awesome there. Filipiak giving you the laugh there. I hope you're still the 2 seed, though, Steven. You get the bye there anyways. If Cook can't go, should I flex Fitz or Hollywood in my flex? I'm going to probably go Hollywood there. You get the tough Buffalo matchup, though. Tre'Davious White probably running with him. Is there 206 job, 60 hours? Yeah, no worries, my friend, Nick. I totally just giving you shit for no reason. That's tough. Like, is there any other options other than Fitz or Hollywood? Some of these guys we've tossed out there as streamers. Is Zach Pascal out there? For example, we're going to talk about some wide receiver streams in a second. In terms of running backs, you could look at for the flex. Darwin Thompson, I know, is a guy we just talked about. Maybe let me look here back at some running backs we were higher on his streams. Benny Snell's only 30% owned. Is he out there? Like, he'd be the top play. Maybe Laird as a flex option. I would have either of those guys above Fitz or Hollywood just because I'm very, very worried. If those are your only 2 guys, I'm going to go Fitz because I don't like this Buffalo matchup for Hollywood and very big risk to just disappear. Hopefully you have Madison too, but if not, then Pascal's going to be my favorite stream of the week, as we're going to cover in a second as we get to wide receivers. Nick, let me know if he's out there for you. I have Josh Allen and Darnold. Should I pick up Fitz or Tannehill off the waiver wire or roll with it? I do like Tannehill much more than Fitz. Just seems safer to me. Seems like he's actually playing good football, whereas Fitz seems like he's just getting lucky slinging it and Parker's making plays all over for him. I think that continues to happen, but it's still risky. I think you could cut Darnold for Tannehill because if you're playing the matchups, then you're going to go Tannehill, and if you're not playing the matchups, you're just rolling Josh Allen. So I'd rather own Tannehill than Darnold at this point. And to me, I do play Tannehill over Allen this week. That's a really tough one, though, because Allen just continues to be matchup proof because of the leg points, because the big arm, too. He's been getting it done. Jimmy Bridges, great to see you, my dude. And Derek Hale need 2. I think I just answered that one for you, but it's Thomas and Devontae Adams. Derek Hale, quite the accomplishment. Pat yourself on the back. I love this shit talk on. Can't get all 3 and never bench MT. Mateo, we're on the same page. Great Wolves think alike. I have Allen and Darnold's QBs. Is it worth it? Oh, yeah. You guys have asked. Why are you repeating the questions? I'm getting there. Come on, guys. I'm not missing them. I don't appreciate. I don't mind the commentary. Up to 13 likes too. If you haven't given us a like, please do. Much better than the 1 like we had a second ago. Thanks again, Allison. First like of the day. But any shares, comments, all that is greatly appreciated, especially shares, to get a few more people in here as we wrap up our wide receivers. So I'm playing Henry. This is the last one I'm going to get to. Derek, before I get to wide receivers, and then, of course, I'm going to get to the rest of your questions. I'll answer everything that comes in tonight, folks. Derek Hale, I'm playing Henry, but need 2.5 per carry league. A. Jones, Lindsey, Singletary, Monty, or do I dare play James White? That half carry setting, that's how I knew you were in Filipiak's league there. Makes it a big risk. You're definitely going Jones. Isn't it full PPR there, or is it half PPR? Because if it's full, I think that offsets, and I really think James White catches like 10 balls. But in terms of the half carries, if that's the case, I'm going to go Lindsey. If it's half PPR, half carry, because he should get 15, 20 touches against a very vulnerable Houston team on the ground that also gives up a ton of receiving work. So I could see Lindsey having 4 or 5 catches, 15 or more carries. Just on the volume, you're getting a ton of points there, Hale. Never mind if he finds the end zone. But if it's full PPR, I do like James White there. All right, folks, let's get to the wide receivers. Mike Thomas, despite that San Fran matchup, is just gorgeous. I'm never going to put Hill lower than 3. I think I can have Adams above him just because Green Bay, Washington's given up so many big plays, and this guy's back. I can't put Evans, just how inconsistent he's been. Let me pull up the matchup calendar, though. We'll kind of get a gauge on our wide receivers for matchups. This is one last look at the running backs. Let's talk about wide receivers as it's loading here. So week 14, so San Fran, again, tough, but you're always playing Mike T. DeAndre Hopkins, tough match against Denver, but you're always playing him. Same with Tyreek Hill, despite a tough matchup. So Hopkins should probably be lumped in with those guys. We just saw Keenan Allen get it done. I'm sure Hopkins can, but Adams in the best matchup of your big elite wide receiver ones. I do like Godwin and Evans' spots. Kind of lean Godwin a little higher this week just because they're more vulnerable out of the slot there. Julio Jones is going to draw James Bradbury, who shut him down in the past before, if he's even active. So that means I almost like Ridley more than him, and Julio's been a complete bag of shit, not scoring touchdowns, getting hurt. So many busts in terms of early round wide receivers. Always go the bell cows. We're seeing number one wide receivers start to get a lot of separation against Chicago. So Cooper can get it done. He won't be all that high. I don't love Lockett getting that Ramsey lockdown treatment most likely this week, fresh off a 0-point day. Of course, as soon as it makes sense to bench him, he's going to go off for 103. But man, I'm not going to be a fan of him. Not a great spot for Edelman, but he's matchup proof as the only real engine there. Love DJ Moore's spot. I do think Diggs and Thielen, even if he's back, can get it done against Detroit. 5th most points to wide receivers. Cooper Kupp, some signs of life here. Robert Woods, though, maybe he's the true wide receiver one here. Either way, Seattle isn't overly intimidating. You got your hardest matchups coming up in a couple weeks here, so I think you got at least one more week of high usability for your Rams guys. Nothing overly concerning at Jacksonville. Your boy might follow around. Keenan definitely has been great. Cortland Sutton, blow-up spot, getting it done against Buffalo, the Chargers, these tough matchups. No matter who the quarterback is, no matter what the matchup, the guy gets it done. So big fan of him. Parker's so low in these fucking rankings, just disrespectful. Beckham down to 18. Cincinnati, should be a blow-up spot, but Beckham just blows. Chark, I got that question earlier, Freeman or Chark. This is a good reason to bench Freeman. Casey Hayward. We saw Sutton get on him a few times, but I don't know if I trust Chark quite as much as Sutton. Robinson, blowing up in the easy matchups, but then getting erased in the tough ones. So tough spot here against Dallas. In terms of other juicy matchups as we scroll down, good spot for Golladay, and Bilal likes to chuck, so I'm going to keep him up there. Ooh, tough spots for John Brown. Baltimore can be beat deep, but you're gonna have what the fuck's his name? Humphreys following him around all over the place. So that's a tough one. Tampa Bay, good spot for Hilton, but is he going to actually play? They're optimistic. You got the Jets for Parker, who's just been dominating. Look at this playoff stretch. We've raved about it all season, even 10 weeks ago, talking about how he's getting it done in tough matchups. Wait till he gets here. We saw what he did against Philly. No reason he won't be able to do similar things to the awful Jets secondary. So he's going to be very high in the rankings. And then you're getting to, does Curtis Samuel blow up this week? 8th most points wide receivers. Crowder back to usable against Miami despite the back-and-back duds. He got it done against Miami earlier, and I think he does quite again. Their slot corner is just embarrassingly bad. The Giants guys, Golden Tate if he's back, in a good spot against Philly. Alshon, going to be very high. So low here, 38. My rest of season big board, he's up in your top 20 or so receivers. Love the spot against the Giants. Should be in another 30% or so target share. Good bet to find the end zone in top 100 like he did last week. Juju or James Washington, rather, in good spots as well. Deebo Samuel, 7th most points, plays a lot in the slot. So good spot if he's drawing. PJ Williams, definitely a fan of Deebo this week. We just talked about Golden Tate, Philly. Good matchup for all those guys here. So let's dig into it. Let's get sifting through these wide receivers, folks. And again, any questions you have, keep them coming in. It's been a great show so far. Almost at 60 comments. Let's hit 100 tonight, folks. Up to 19 likes and shock face. I don't know what I did to earn the shock face, but I'll fucking take it. The shock value while you're all showing up here. I'm going to put Evans below Godwin. Yeah, Edelman's still there. I like DJ Moore. I mean, didn't he just absolutely eat up Atlanta before? So I'm going to move him even above Evans. I don't think Chark belongs as high as he is here, especially when you got Diggs in a great matchup. How is he above Parker? How are any of these guys above fucking Parker? Parker deserves to be a top 10 wide receiver this week and pretty much every week moving forward with the matchups and the way this guy's playing. I understand your Parker PTSD. Yeah, he's burned his owner so much, but it's clear he's putting it all together. The degree of difficulty on his catches all game and the trust that Ryan Fitzpatrick has in him are just impossible to top. Let's bump up Calvin Ridley. It looks like Julio Jones wasn't ranked, and they're optimistic about playing. So let me find Julio, and we'll rank him as if he is playing. He would go kind of like right here at 11. Just the risk of re-injury with him, definitely scary. Keenan Allen, Beckham doesn't belong above any of these guys. Jarvis Landry's the one that's truly getting it done there, the true number one there. Yeah, so clearly I'm a little bit lower on Chark this week. Maybe it's because I'm facing him, but definitely lower on him. Alshon against the Giants has to be a top 20 wide receiver, in my opinion, fresh off a monster blow-up day. And same with Crowder, has to be higher. And I'm not worried about Cooper as much as some of these other guys are. If you have three amazing wide receiver options, sure, bench him, but he's gotten it done in tough matchups this year, so I'm not overly concerned. Any other guys down here that deserve to get bumped up? I think Golladay got it done with Blau, who's by far the favorite target of their backup quarterback this week. Should be able to destroy Xavier Rhodes, as every corner has been able to. Oh, Courtland Sutton. Get him, the matchup-proof man himself. I think deserves to be top 60. I'd have him above Cooper just because of the safety factor here. Drew Lock, loved him, and he got it done quite well. Here we go. Robert Woods needs to be higher. I mean, how's the guy fresh off a 170-yard day and getting just disrespected like this? Deserves, any tier. He shouldn't be this far below Cooper Kupp. I'd have him above Odell. Odell, as soon as I rank him this low, he's going to blow up. And I get the Cincy matchup, but he continues to ruin lineups and continues to get way too much respect. I'm going to put Metcalf actually above Lockett for this week. I think Crowder, I get you're going to have to swallow back puke, but I'm going to have him above a lot of these guys too. That Miami slot is just so bad this year. So bad. And then, continuing on here, I just don't like any of my Arizona. I do like Andy Dalton being back. So, yeah, Lockett, as you can clearly see here, and John Brown, definitely lower on these guys than your standard expert here. Get fucking McLaurin out of my face. Don't even want to see that shit. I do like Robbie Anderson a bit more. I'm going to cut this off at Gallup as like your high end. And now we're getting into like your streams. So if I'm getting this low, Fuller's going to be a little bit higher despite the dud. Oh, Deebo Samuel definitely up a bit. 7th most points to wide receivers, and Sanders should draw Lattimore, which gets him a decent bump up in my opinion. Zach Pascal. Oh, man, I'd have him. This is assuming that T.Y. Hilton sits, but wide receiver 26, 17 spots higher than his ECR. He's fresh off season highs in targets, receptions, and yardage, and now gets Tampa Bay giving up the most points. Like, he should have no trouble shredding that team. So that's one I'm a lot higher on. James Washington, I'm going to be a lot higher on. 13 spots higher than his ECR. I'd rather have him than Kirk. He continues to get it done. A.J. Brown, I'm going to give a little bit of a bump up facing Oakland. If I love Tannehill this much, I'm going to like his number one wide receiver too. I do think Shepard needs to be higher than both those guys, though, especially if Golden Tate and Ingram sit again. That Philly secondary, very porous. Does he belong even with this group? Maybe. I think he does. You have TD, great chemistry throws, and Daniel Jones has been so shaky, but still, definitely gets that little bump up there. Now we're getting into some ugly territory. So let's see here. I like Tyrell Williams against Tennessee more than a lot of these guys tend to do. And I know that offense has been so underwhelming, but since losing Malcolm Butler, that secondary has just been god awful. So I continue to like targeting that defense, especially because Tannehill puts up his points and keeps it competitive. But Curtis Samuel should find the end zone against Atlanta. I believe he did last time they were out. Again, not a big fan of Sanders this week. Miller, he's going to get a bump up here. Just blowed up for 140 yards. Has seen like 33 targets in his last 3 games. So the volume has gone up. The production's gone up with it. McLaurin, again, tough matchup. The guy has not been getting it done since Callahan took over. So why is he suddenly going to take off? I'm not a fan of that. I would put Marvin Jones just for the touchdown upside above Marquise Brown. That Tre'Davious White matchup is so scary. This offense gets it done so well, but I don't know. And then down here, Slayton just quietly continues to get it done. I'd have him above Marquise Brown. I don't know what people have against this guy. He just continues to produce. It should stay, I'm assuming Golden Tate's out now. Then it's going to be a decent bump. So let's X out of Golden Tate. Now, if he plays, you got a little revenge game. Played with Philly last year. So Golden Tate will be, right up where Sterling Shepard is, and these guys will get a bump down. Other than that, who am I streaming down here? It's getting ugly, ugly, ugly. Beasley, not against Baltimore. Maybe Russell Gage if you're desperate for a streamer. I think Mike Williams I'd have above McLaurin for sure. He just makes those circus catches every single week. Alan Lazard, a good streamer if you're desperate out there. But now we're in the bottom 50. So if you're in the playoffs, you're hopefully not considering this garbage down here. Like Tim Patrick, I'm looking at this list and there's nobody. I'll cut this tier up as your last potential starters. Deontay Johnson after the catch has been decently dangerous. So right here, right above Corey fuck you Davis is where I'd cut this off. And I don't see anyone on this list that necessarily needs to join them. Maybe Aguilar with all the injuries. If I'm going to stream someone down here, it's probably going to be him. But holy hell, that gets ugly, and it gets ugly fast. Alrighty, guys. We're going to get on to tight ends, so let me pull that up. But let me get to your questions first. So I'm playing. We already got to that one. Not like you got to buy. Better hope you don't lose the number 8 seed. So you guys have 8 teams make it. See, that's one thing, Steven, and everybody else out there. 8 teams should never make a fucking fantasy league. It should always be half or less. So I love a 12. If it's a 12 teamer, 6 make it. If it's a 10 teamer, cut it off at 4. When it's that JV level of 10 teams. If it's 14, 6. You're not going above a half. 8 teams should never make it because you see so many stupid fucking heroic runs for a dog shit team that's been awful all year. Get that shit out of here. And Hale, the fact that you're in a league with that, you're going to end up losing to the 8 seed and you're going to fucking hate your life. Although your team sounds beastly, so I hope that doesn't happen. And you're a loyal Wolfpack member, so I hope it doesn't happen, but that shit just happens all the fucking time. Do you sit Lockett for Kirk? Nah, Tim. As you can see, I have so many options above those other two just because Pittsburgh, they do give a lot to slot receivers, but I think that D-line is just going to swallow up Kyler Murray. So I'm not sitting Lockett for Kirk. I don't like the matchup for Lockett. I had a lot of guys ahead of him. I mean, even Pascal, I have above these guys. I know how crazy that is. I know his team got a lot better. I traded him Mixon, and he has Penny now, but I'm hoping it will be you. Yeah, you guys talking back and forth. I fucking love it. Keep the shit talk coming, guys. I love that shit. I know it doesn't mean anything. Just talking shit. Good stuff. Dylan Adams, hopefully I can have a good week. Loving my matchups. Jones, Fournette, Jacobs. Damn, look at those horses. Freeman doesn't completely shit the fucking bed. So can you start 4 running backs? I would definitely start those 4. I don't think Freeman completely shits the bed. That run defense has been so pathetic, Dylan. I think you're in good shape there. Madison or Colonel Mustard? No, nobody I'm going to play. I think Madison definitely. If you're not playing him, then stack Madison, because if Cook sits, if he's out, then maybe you would play Madison, and you certainly don't want your opponents doing it. I think Colonel Mustard, fucking brown spicy ass white mustard, who gets 2 when I needed him and then gets 30 when I finally cut his fucking useless ass. Ugh. I clearly have bias against the motherfucker, but I would not be playing Colonel Mustard ever. And I kind of would like your opponents to fall into the trap of playing him, because it's just going to be a 3-headed nightmare. You're not going to know who's getting the carries. They're going to keep riding the hot hand. Not for me, folks. Not for me. Just insurance. I have 6 backs already. Yes, exactly. Hunter Eckler, full PPR. I'm leading a Hunt there, both in great matchups, both in specific roles. I think Hunt the better bet for a touchdown. I love them both, Jose, though. So is there any way you could work them both in there? Both in my top 20. So give me Hunt there. 4-point TD, Wentz or Dak. I'm leaning Wentz with that juicy spot against the Giants, 7th most points to QBs. Dak has been so good and pretty much matchup proof. So, Justin Keene, like Thursday night, you're going to be sitting there giving me the double middle fingers because Dak's going to get it done against Chicago. But I like Wentz. Now that Alshon's back, he looks so much more comfortable, has a big body, he can just kind of chuck it up to. I like Wentz. I really think the Giants, he should just thrash those guys. And you're leaning Wentz anyways. So, and Wentz against Darnold, I would definitely go Wentz there. So, yeah, we're in agreement here. Let's ride it out, my friend. Leo. Also have Wilkins, so I have to start. So it's standard and coming Sunday. Okay, good. So, Leo, let me answer that question. Let me scroll back up for you. Because I just thought it was next week. So I didn't want to waste time looking at something that isn't going to matter till next week anyways. Where the fuck is that question? Breida, Drake, Howard, Montgomery, Devontae, Thomas, Julio, Ertz, Birds, D, or Cincy. So in terms of running backs, I would not be playing Breida. It's a tough matchup. It's going to be a 3-headed committee. And Howard, though, is he going to even be playing? So Drake and Montgomery are the options. I don't love it. That's kind of ugly. I hope you can use those 4 wide receivers, because those 3 wide receivers, those are significantly better if you need a flex. And then Ertz in there. So Birds D or Cincy D. I'm going to go Birds. I know they shit their pants against the Dolphins this week, but a good spot to get right against the very turnover-prone Daniel Jones there. And where was I? Coming Sunday. And you added something else there. So, again, I have Montgomery. Oh, you're reiterating it. So I have to start QB, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, tight end, flex D. So, yeah, you're going all 3 wide receivers there, Leo. In terms of the 2 running backs, I'm going to go Montgomery, Drake, Howard, who knows. Breida, Howard probably not going to suit up. Breida, I'm not putting someone in a 3-headed nightmare. And then I love your wide receivers there. You got to get all 3 of those guys, assuming Julio plays. If not, let me know who's out there in your waiver wire. But I'm playing those 3 guys. And then the defense, I'm going Birds. Patrick James, drop Tyrell Williams for James Washington. What do I do with Rojo and Crowder? Half PPR. I think you drop Rojo. Fuck that guy. I'm not touching him. I get the Detroit matchup next week, I guess, is juicy. But he gets benched for 1 missed blitz pickup. Like, that is a huge risk. I'm not trying to stomach. I'd keep Tyrell Williams. I know that offense has been sputtering, but that's a number 1 wide receiver. I do like James Washington, so I would try to get him on my roster. I think you can trust Crowder this week against Miami. Give him one last slap on the ass. And then it's to the waiver wire or bench for him, because the tougher matchups, it stiffens up the schedule for Darnold and the pathetic Jets coming up. So you get Crowder in there. I like James Washington to blow up against Arizona this week, so I figured out a way to get him. But ideally, it's not the expensive Tyrell Williams. So let me know what else you can consider cutting there. Justin Keene, Jonnu Smith or Goddard. Could pair Goddard with Wentz. I like the Goddard pairing there with Wentz. Stack them up, maximize your upside there, Justin. The guy's been a touchdown beast, and Jonnu's just been so hit or miss. The Oakland matchup is sexy, so let's see when we get to tight ends, which we're about to do here, Justin. But ultimately, I am going to lean Goddard. I think trusting the gut here. Derek Hale in that half carry. Flex DJ Moore over Lindsey, Singletary, Monty, or White. I think I'd flex him over either of those guys. But it's a half per carry, which just really keeps fucking me up, because that's like 6 points that I'm not accounting for. Fuck. That's a really hard one, Derek. You're giving me the heavy hitters this week. I mean, definitely DJ Moore over Singletary or Monty. It comes down to Moore versus White or Lindsey. I think I'm leaning. Is it full PPR? I don't know what that is. You got to remind me. If it's full PPR, I'm going to go Moore over anybody. If it's half and half, I think I go Lindsey just with the volume bet there. Matt Ryan or Kirk Cousins? I'm going to go Kirk there, Eddie. I love the matchup against Detroit. Just a bombable defense. And Matt Ryan is hit or miss, but I don't like the spot against Carolina. Much more of a run-based attack coming against them, you'd imagine. Nick James, Paris Campbell, and the Tate Ross are free agent. That's pretty bad. Burkhead, this is only if Cook can't go. I have White and Jacobs. So you got a stacked, back core. So if they can't go, you got to remind me who the other options were. I don't remember it off the top of my head. But who knows if Paris Campbell's playing. Tate and Ross are now much more confusing. I don't think I could trust a Bengal like that in my finals. So remind me who your other options were. Jose, sit one. Julio, Chark, Parker, or Allen. I'm going to sit Chark there. As soon as you sit him, 2 down weeks, he's going to probably blow up this week. But assuming Julio plays, he's got to be locked in. Parker, my favorite of all these options, so that's the most locked in. And Keenan Allen, he's getting that heat, late season heat like he always does. Even in a tough match against Denver, gets a nice score last week. Jeremiah, so sorry to hear that. Lockett screwed a lot of people. Even if you only needed 0.1, gets absolutely nothing. That sucks. Hopkins or Sutton, you got to ride Hopkins, but man, dare I say Sutton's safer. But I can see Hopkins still getting it done despite Denver being a solid, against 25th fewest points, 2 wide receivers. So tough matchup there. And Sutton in a blow-up spot against Houston. Oh, man, that's tough. But Hopkins is Hopkins. Like, you ride your first rounder, in my opinion there. Tampa Bay defense has been playing pretty well recently. I'm not too worried about them at all. It's Tampa Bay. That secondary fucking sucks. I'm in the 14 with 6. Yeah, that's what it's got to be there, my friend. Like 6 is fine, not 8, not over half. Double flex league. Oh yeah, that's the 2 running backs you were talking about. Gallup or Shepard or Tate? Asks Jimmy Parsons. I mean, we got to know if Tate's playing. That's gonna be a huge factor. The only issue there is you're gonna have to wait. Gallup going Thursday night. If Golden Tate and Shepard are both playing, they're probably going to eat each other's cheese, and I like Gallup more than them. But if Golden Tate sits, I think I like Shepard just a little bit more as a higher volume bet. Gallup in that tough Chicago spot. But if both guys are playing, if Tate's trending towards active, I think Gallup's going to be my play there. Oh, Giuseppe, great to see you, my friend. Pick a running back in flex. Carson, Drake, Mixon, White, OBJ, or Chark. So Carson, I'm riding out, and then I'm also Mixon versus James White's tricky because it's half PPR. White in a full, I like a little bit more than any of these guys, to be honest. I'm not looking at either wide receiver, just both too inconsistent right now to trust. So to me, I think it's Carson, and I think it's James White, and I'm going to go Pittsburgh D because I think they're just going to swallow up that pathetic line, Giuseppe. Hollywood Brown or Fitzgerald were the other two. Nick, thanks for the reminder. I think if that's the case, you just go for the blow-up and you toss Hollywood Brown in there and hope he gets that long ball out there. Ross, Davis, Amendola, if Jones out. Oh, God. Which one's Davis? Who the fuck's Davis? I don't even know. Corey Davis? Fuck that. I'm never going to go there. I guess John Ross, similar to my logic with Hollywood Brown here, you just hope for that deep ball. What to do with Thielen? If he plays, you play him. Detroit's that bad, Dylan. If not, I need to know your backup plans. But if he's out there, he's going to be active for you. He has to be. Too good of a matchup. Too good of a talent. All right, folks. On the tight ends, let me just pull up the matchup calendar real quick before we get the actual rankings done live for you. Any last questions, get them on in. I'll just do an open mailbag the rest of the show after we get through tight ends and defenses. Maybe even toss in some kickers for you. All righty, here we go. So we got week 14. Not a great spot for Kelsey. Better spot for, Kittle, but, not a great spot either. Ertz, somehow the Giants really good against tight ends, 28th, despite being one of the most puke-worthy defenses, especially against wide receivers. They have locked down tight ends well, and you got to be a little concerned with Ertz, how he's been playing. And then another tough matchup for Andrews. So this is a weird tight end week. You're still going to have your names at the top, but, looking at Darren Waller higher, 7th most points with Tennessee. Jack Doyle in a blow-up spot against Tampa Bay. I might like him above a lot of these guys. Coming off a season high in snaps, 94% of them, and targets. He saw 11 targets, 7 catches, and 73 yards. All of those were season highs, plus gets the score and now gets an even easier matchup against Tampa Bay. Sign me up for the Jack Doyle, top 5 experience this week. Don't love Cook in a tough matchup. Ingram probably not going to play, but I bet he is. Giants for Goddard. So I said I liked Goddard, but that's a tough matchup if you expect anything from both those guys. If there's ever a week for Vance McDonald to do it, folks, he gets Arizona this week, so he'll be a top 12 option. You saw Higbee go off against him. And speaking of Rams, 4th easiest matchup for them this week. And then you're just in gross territory like O.J. Howard and none of these guys in great streamable matchups. Gesicki just went off, but again, similar to the Giants who he's got next week, the Jets, a horrible defense, but also great against tight ends. I don't get it, so I probably wouldn't be tossing him in there. I think Jimmy Graham, as boom or bust as he's been, Washington a spot to use him. And I do like Jonnu Smith. I'm going to go Jonnu Smith over Goddard. We're going to get that ranking out there in a second for you, just because that Oakland matchup is so juicy. Alrighty, here I am, ready to get through the tight end rankings for you. Jack Doyle, I'm putting in my top 5 here. I love the spot. I think he's going to blow up. I think Hunter Henry and Waller deserve to be a little higher, but I'd play Jack Doyle if I had him above Ertz and above Andrews with these juicy matchups. Yeah, Griffin in a good spot against Miami, middle of the road defense there. We mentioned Vance McDonald in that blow up spot against Arizona. Hollister though, I get the Rams not a great matchup, but he's just been, a focal point in this offense. Always a big red zone threat to score. So I like him a lot. We mentioned Jonnu Smith in that great matchup against Oakland, so let's bump him up. And Jimmy Graham gets a nice little nod up here. Higbee against Seattle. This is assuming Everett's out. I think he plays another mammoth role this week. 4th most points to tight end, so you can get him in there. And I'll cut this off at Jimmy Graham, just the matchup again. The only reason to even consider him. Howard led the team in receiving last time out. Oh, Kyle Rudolph. Touchdown in 4 of his last 5 games. Has just been lighting it up. Had 50 yards and a TD. I get it's matchup dependent, but against Detroit, you have to enjoy Rudolph. I think what he's been doing over the last month and a half has gone severely underappreciated. I would really like to know actually what he ranks. I'll pull it up right now. Fantasy Pros leaders. He had a horrible. If we look at this guy, can I pull up the player card here? I'll click on him. But you look at it, his first 5 weeks or so were just non-existent, didn't do a damn thing. And since then, he's scored in almost every single week and put up some really nice games, even though the receiving yards have not been there. So, yeah, completely pathetic these first couple weeks. 11 yards, 12 yards, no touchdowns. So through 6 weeks was just disgusting. But since then, he's got 1, 2, 4, 5 touchdowns in his last 5 games. 1 dud against Washington, but otherwise, even with low yardage totals, touchdown or bust, has been getting it done. Gets it done against Denver. Oh, 6 touchdowns in those 6 weeks. Never mind, coming off the bye, still gets it done with 2 of his higher yardage totals on the year. Let's see what he ranks in terms of actual tight end outputs since week 7 on. I bet you it's top 6 because of all these touchdowns he's been putting up. So let's find out. I'm doing that. A great tool from Fantasy Pros called the Matchup Leaders, and you can kind of sift through the weeks. Get to fucking half PPR. Wow. The highest points per game other than Jared Cook. That's in standard leagues, so that makes sense because the touchdowns are so dependent there. Let's check half PPR. Does he still rank up there? So Kelsey's still your number 1. Waller, You're second in points, but had one more game than pretty much everyone. So Rudolph, the third in points per game among tight ends since week 7. I know, sorry, it took a little while there to get through, but Rudolph has been lighting it on fire, folks. So he has to be a good matchup. Whatever we saw there, good spot for him to blow up. So I'm a big fan of Kyle Rudolph after calculating those numbers there for you. Did I freeze up? Is that why everyone's fucking dropping off? Am I talking too much about Kyle Rudolph? Hopefully you guys are still with me here. Hopefully the audio is coming in okay despite the laggy picture. Other than that, I mean, I always have Fells a little bit higher than the ECR just because I like the touchdown upside he brings each and every week. Dawson Knox. So I'm going to rank Austin Hooper as if he's actually playing. And if he's playing, got to be in your top 6 this week. I absolutely love the guy. Was a number 2 tight end before going down on the year. Actually, was ahead of Kelsey almost the entire season before the injury. So big fan of him. Definitely. Yeah, I like Nelson Aguilar a little bit more, Leo, before I get back to my tight ends here, than some of those guys you're mentioning. Want to make sure I get to, again, all your questions, all your comments. Anyone else down here streamable for tight ends? Nah. I mean, Caden Smith, just an every down guy when Ingram's out, so I'll put him above some of these. And Jason Witten's actually, I would put above most of these options, just because Chicago's been pretty generous to tight ends. He's been a red zone staple for Dak Prescott. Would not be surprised. When you're going that low, you're hoping for a touchdown or bust. Let's get to defenses because that does truly matter this week. And let's hope this fucking lag stops. Jesus Christ, Facebook. So pathetic. It's probably my shitty computer more so than Facebook's fault, though. Let's be real here. Okay. So defenses this week, not great spots for a lot of your usual top guys. I do like the Packers at the top there at home against a bad Washington team. I am nervous they're going to be able to run the ball on them. Green Bay is the 5th most points to running backs, and that's what Washington does. So I wouldn't be shocked if they don't do a whole lot. So I'd rather have the Vikings this week against Blau. I'd rather have the Ravens, despite Josh Allen being very, very solid. Let me know, guys, is the audio coming in okay despite this laggy video? Fucking sucks. Thanks, dudes. 2 QB leagues, sit 1. So before we get to, let's answer the rest of your questions, then wrap up with the defenses here. Sit 1 of Breeze, Tannehill, or Fitzpatrick. I would have to sit Fitzmagic there. I get the matchup, but how could you ever really put Fitzpatrick in over Breeze? So give me Breeze, give me Tannehill there. Only other person I could cut for Washington is Gus Edwards, my cuff. I'm locked in the 1 seed of playoffs. I'm just concerned about my wide receivers. Moore, Cup, Tyrell, Crowder, Slayton. And then you got Kamara, Ingram, Murray, Edwards, Rojo. I think you can cut Rojo. Is he ever going to touch your starting lineup there? You got Murray cuffing Ingram. You got Edwards. You got Ingram and Edwards. You got Murray and Kamara. I don't know if you flex any of them because you got those good wide receivers, Pat. So I don't know. I mean, maybe next week you're missing out on the Detroit juicy matchup, but I just don't see how I could ever trust Ronald Jones once he gets benched for one missed blitz pickup, despite how bad Peyton Barber looks. I don't know, man. I would probably cut Slayton or Rojo there. Would be the guys. Ertz or Doyle full PPR? I'm going Doyle, as you just saw, Jose, which is crazy in my opinion, but the juicy matchup against Tampa Bay, the high totals, the high snaps, the high targets. I really like Jack Doyle this week. I think he's going to go at least 70 yards again, another score. Just depends on, does he get 2? Does he get to 100 yards? Does he get 10 catches? He's in a great blow-up spot. Audio's fine. Good. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. All's back. Sorry, not the best of operations here. We're going to upgrade all our equipment this offseason. We hope to get some backers, some funding, and really make this thing as legit as possible. Alrighty, guys. So, I like Pittsburgh, more than maybe your ECR just because I think they're going to dominate that awful Arizona line. I think, Philly against the Giants, despite that defense blowing, is in a good spot. I do like Dallas against Chicago, but Chicago's at home. I think Dallas' defense is a little overrated. So give me the Jets against Miami. As good as Fitzpatrick's play, I can't do that. I do like the Texans against Denver at home. Chicago's not what they were, but Dallas a tough matchups too. I like the Titans against Oakland quite a bit. So let's bump them up. Again, Oakland 12 points across their last few weeks. Man, defenses are tough to sift through this week. There's nothing like very, very clear cut. The Seahawks, very opportunistic despite not being a great defense. I do like the Colts a lot, so I want to make sure they're up and on your guys' radar. This is a matter to me where it's like the Patriots are the Patriots. Like Mahomes threw a bunch of turnovers last week. It's the Pats defense. They've been so good all year. We know they're going to get some points, but don't be shocked if they get a pick six in there as well. Like, if you have the Patriots defense, you're rolling them the fuck out. And same with San Fran. Like, let's side with talent here instead of matchup sometimes. Like, New Orleans is good, but San Fran can get through. They can get some sacks. They could pick off Breeze. Other than that, New England's offense has not been all that scary. So, Kansas City could get to the passer. I think they could get some points here. They'll be fired up. I'd rather have them fucking crap-ass San Fran. Carolina, not crap-ass San Fran. They've been great. Cincy on the road, no. Bucks have looked good, and this offense is kind of inept. I think the Jaguars need a little more love than they're getting. I'd rather have the Colts because they're facing Tampa Bay, but Jags still have some talent on that defense, and Phillip Rivers just looks horrendous. And then the Chargers, somewhat intriguing. But other than that, the Bills, who are very popular all year, not against Baltimore. You can't obviously have Arizona ever. The Broncos against Houston, just in terms of talent, are better than any of these options. So, I'll bump them up. But, yeah, Rams, a popular option, not against Seattle. Although Seattle is very turnover prone, and they're at home. So, I like them a bit more than, some of these teams, at least. So, yeah, that's the matchups. It's a weird week for defenses, folks, but that's where I'm shaking things up a little bit. Have a good night, guys. Thanks, Wolf Dylan. Thanks so much for tuning in. I would greatly appreciate it. I have Kelsey as my starter. Would you ever flex Cook over any of those guys I listed? No, not this week. Not against San Fran, dude. Definitely not. And maybe some weeks, when it's a right matchup, but not here. And for those of you who care about kickers, why not get them in? Any last-minute questions, get them in, folks, because I will be signing out, taking the lady out to dinner, and not too long from here. So I'm going to get through these kickers as fast as I can. Tucker always at the top, along with Lutz, Zerlin. I kind of like Lutz more than some of these other guys, just because, the tough defense scares you, yet that also for an offense that can move the ball against anyone but might stall it in the red zone, I like that more. I do like the leg always. Fuck Mason Crosby. Asswipe. Give me Young-Ho Koo over Crosby. Not Matt Gay. That offense is just too inconsistent. Butker, though, belongs with your big four. Always, always a monster. And then you're looking at, I like Dan Bailey. I do think, Crosby, I know I'm a little lower, but against Washington definitely makes sense. I do love Bags, though. The flow is huge on that guy. And he's just been a beast. And then you're looking at, I fucking hate Myers. I think, Kaimi will get his field goal opportunities. Gould has been very shaky. Maher, definitely shaky as well, but will get his boots. Siebert, I'm not going to put over Fairbairn, but maybe over Gould. So definitely a starter for those of you out there. Could you ever go back to Joey Sly? Maybe. Zane, a big risk. As I said, I think that defense is going to dominate. And then you're not using Vinatieri, who just continues to brick after brick. Maybe Boswell and that's where I'll cut it off. Lambeau's been so steady too. But you got 19 guys here. Sift through them. Pick somebody. You got to find someone on this list that you can use. Since I'm starting Pittsburgh, D should drop Philly or for Benny Snell or Geis and swap him in the flex over White. I wouldn't swap either of those guys in for James White, but yes, I drop either of them. I would drop Philly D for either guy. I prefer Geis just because I think he has more season-long value, Giuseppe. And maybe he won't make you regret dropping him last week. Nobody recommended that, right? But I like Geis, and if you don't get him, I like Benny Snell. I would drop either defense for those guys. But yeah, you're going to roll Pittsburgh D the rest of the year. So drop Philly D for Snell and Geis. But I would not play either over White just because that matchup's so juicy against Cincinnati. Actually, fuck it, one more. Doyle's on the waiver. Should I pick him up and stash him? I have Ertz as well. I'd play Doyle over Ertz. So yeah, I think I would just to take him away. Giuseppe's stealing the words from my mouth. I would go just make sure you don't have to face him. That's huge in the playoffs is cucking your opponent, blocking them from the guys that you want. You don't want to face it because he's going to go off against Tampa Bay. And if your opponent picks him up, that's another 15 points that you don't want to have go up your ass. So yeah, I definitely would pick him up and block him and maybe even use him over Ertz this week. Huge fan of Doyle this week. Alrighty, Wolfpack. Thank you so much for your support. As always, 89 comments. Didn't hit the 100, but I'll take 89. Not too bad. You guys are the best. You make my Tuesday every week by joining me on this. Best of luck. It is the fantasy playoffs, folks. Maybe we'll get an extra Thursday night sit start show in just to make sure you are ready to go for that Bears matchup. Bears-Cowboys. It's the playoffs. We got to get that extra help out there for you guys. I'm glad to see so much of the Wolfpack is in the playoffs. That's why we do this. Let's get the W's, though. It means nothing to make the dance if you don't go all